One of the interesting things in the SEAL teams is we didn't have, especially when I was coming up, we didn't have any doctrine whatsoever. There was no written doctrine of any kind. So everything that you learned was word of mouth. You learned from the guys that went before you. And that meant if the guys that went before you didn't really know what they were doing, you're probably learning a bad way. And if you didn't think objectively about it, then you might follow someone down a path that doesn't make any sense. So you ended up with a bunch of guys in the SEAL teams that were pretty open-minded, and they could kind of look at problems and figure out how to solve them. In the Army and the Marine Corps, they have doctrine for just about everything. This is how you do a raid. This is how you conduct an ambush. They had written doctrine for this. So if you didn't know how, you could just look at a book, which is actually a huge benefit for them. Because if I'm a new platoon commander and I don't know how to do an ambush, I can just look at this book and I can learn how to do it. And so there's some huge benefits to having a very disciplined doctrine that you can follow. But that's one of the odd advantages of the SEAL teams, is that since we didn't have any doctrine, we had to be a little bit more free thinking, and that made us a little bit more adaptive in some situations. So it's just like anything else. Your strength can be your weakness can be your strength, and you have to be aware. And if you're aware that it's a strength, and if you're aware that it can also be a weakness, and if you're aware that it's a weakness and you're aware that it can also be a strength, then you can probably optimize the way that you're going to think, which is pretty beneficial. And some people are more rigid than other people in the way they think. And you can take someone that's more rigid and you can make them more creative, but everyone's going to have some kind of a limitation. And some people might have a pretty subdued limitation of how creative they're going to get. And some people can really be trained to get a lot better at that.